Hello class, Dr. Bauer's office hours here, and let's talk about the teleological argument for theism, as well as objections to it, from books 2 and 5, respectively, from Hume's Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. Here are some study guide questions to help us get started. 1. What is Cleanthes' teleological argument for theism in Part 2 of Hume's Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion? 2. What is the Regress objection to Cleanthes' argument? 3. What is the Imperfection objection to Cleanthes' argument? 4. What is the bungling objection to Cleanthes' argument? 5. What is the teamwork objection to Cleanthes' argument? 6. What is the theogony objection to Cleanthes' argument? 7. What is the corporeality objection to Cleanthes' argument? 8. What is the ex nihilo objection to Cleanthes' argument? Alright, as always, when I give the answers to these study guide questions, you may want to pause the video and write them down, type them up, crochet them into a sweater, or however it is that you best internalize the information. So, the term teleological argument comes from the Greek word telos, which means goal or end or function. A telos, in this sense, is a purpose. And accordingly, a teleological argument for theism is an argument which says that a god or gods must exist in order to explain why there are purposes in nature. As such, a teleological argument for theism is often called an argument from design. And perhaps one of the most famous examples of an argument from design, as well as critiques of that argument type, are found in David Hume's Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. In those dialogues, David Hume presents three different characters. A theologian, Demia, who prefers a priori arguments for God's existence. A skeptic, Philo, who doesn't believe there are any good arguments for God's existence. And a natural theologian, Cleanthes, who presents a teleological argument. And it is the latter character and that character's argument which is the main subject of Hume's dialogues. So let's look at Cleanthes' version of the teleological argument from David Hume's dialogues, as well as the various objections that are raised against it. The argument occurs in Book 2 of the Dialogues, and it goes something like this. 1. The world closely resembles a machine. 2. Closely resembling effects have closely resembling causes. 3. So, the world closely resembles a machine, and closely resembling effects have closely resembling causes. We're just conjoining 1 and 2 there. 4. If the world resembles a machine, and if closely resembling effects have closely resembling causes, then the world's cause closely resembles the cause of a machine. 5. So the world's cause closely resembles the cause of a machine. That's 3 and 4 modus ponens. 6. If the world's cause closely resembles the causes of machines, then the world was created by an intelligent artisan. 7. So the world was created by an intelligent artisan. That's 5 and 6 modus ponens. 8. If the world was created by an intelligent artisan, then God exists. 9. So God exists. That's 7 and 8 modus ponens. So the argument basically is this. The world, in all of its complexity and organization, resembles a machine, like a clock or a watch or a printing press. It has all these different parts which seem to fit together towards an organizational whole, and that's very much like what machines are like. Moreover, reasons Cleanthes, resembling effects have resembling causes. If something is very much like a machine, in other words, it was probably caused to exist in very much the same way that machines are caused to exist. Thus, Cleanthes reasons that the world must have been brought into existence the way that machines are brought into existence. Since machines are brought into existence by artisans, inventors, designers, it follows that the world must have been brought into existence by an artisan or an inventor or a designer. This means that the world has a creator, and so, infers Cleanthes, God must exist, for that is who God is, the world's creator. This is Cleanthes' argument for the existence of God by appealing to natural theology or teleology. This is Cleanthes' teleological argument for theism. Now, as I mentioned, Cleanthes presents this argument in Chapter 2 of Hume's Dialogues, and all of the objections to it really start to ramp up in Chapter 5. So let's turn to those objections and see what they are. The first objection we get is a regress objection. The character Philo notes that If there is a cosmic artisan, that is, if there is some cosmic designer that made the universe, we should notice something about such a being. That being has a number of intentions and actions and beliefs, and all of those things fit together in an organized way to produce a single effect, the design of the universe. But look, if the designer of the universe consists of a bunch of different parts and bits that fit together in an organized way to achieve an ultimate effect, this means that the designer of the universe is very much like a machine. And, following the reasoning of Cleanthes' own argument, it should follow that the designer of the universe also had a designer. And, assuming that this second designer is as organized as the first, that designer will have to have a third designer, and it will have to have a fourth, and a fourth will have to have a fifth, and so on ad infinitum. So the regress argument goes like this. If Cleanthes' argument is sound, then there should be an infinite series of designers, each one designing the next. Such an idea is absurd, however, and so much the worse for Cleanthes' argument. That's the regress objection to Cleanthes' version of the teleological argument for theism in Hume's dialogues. The next objection is what we'll call the imperfection objection, and it goes like this. God, we should assume, is absolutely perfect, but artisans and designers, as we know them, are not perfect, far from it. If the creator of the universe is like an artisan, therefore, we do not have much of a reason to suppose that the creator of the universe is perfect. And thus, Cleanthes' teleological argument is inadequate. A good proof for the existence of God should entail that there exists a perfect being. Cleanthes' argument does not entail that there exists a perfect being, so Cleanthes' argument isn't a good teleological argument for theism. This is the imperfection objection to Cleanthes' teleological argument. The next objection, the bungling objection, is very similar to the imperfection one. The basic idea is this, that in real life, when inventors create something, or when artisans create something, it usually takes them several attempts and several drafts to get it right. The very first clock, or the very first printing press did not spring fully formed, perfect from the hands of its designer like Athena from the head of Zeus. On the contrary, there were a bunch of botched, imperfect, bungled attempts to make those things before the final product was perfected. Now, Cleanthes' argument says that the world was created in the same way that inventions are created. It was designed. But this would suggest that our world is just one in a series of botched, bungled, messed up, broken universes. And that's rather absurd, isn't it? What kind of theology do we end up if it turns out that our world is the 361st attempt to make a good world? A rather silly theology, that's what. So much the worse for Cleanthes' argument. That's the bungling objection to Cleanthes' teleological argument for theism in Hume's dialogues. Like the imperfection and bungling objections, the teamwork objection also rests on carrying Cleanthes' analogy through. In the real world, things are seldom invented by just one person alone. More frequently, things are invented and produced by teams of people, groups of people working together, both at the designing board and on the site to make the thing. Cleanthes says that our world was created in the way that things get invented, so it should follow that our world was created by a whole design team of gods. Or at least, a design team of cosmic artisans. The trio of theologian characters in Hume's dialogues are all professed monotheists, so this is a problem for them. A good argument for theism, goes the objection, entails monotheism and is incompatible with polytheism. And yet, if Cleanthes' teleological argument is sound, polytheism seems more likely. So much the worse for Cleanthes' argument, goes the objection. This is the teamwork objection to Cleanthes' argument. After the teamwork objection, there's the theogony objection. Now, the term theogony means generation of the gods, and it's actually the name of an ancient Greek poem which recounts the creation of the world. In the context of Hume's dialogues, however, the objection goes like this. In the real world, designers, inventors, and artisans are all, well, birthed from parents. Designers and artisans are living creatures. The creations of various inventors, therefore, are the products of creatures that were born. Cleanthes says that our world was created in the way that inventions are created. So, goes the objection, we should assume that our world, our universe, was created by something alive, something that has genesis, something that has parents and maybe grandparents. And is that the kind of theology we want? Whole families of divine beings like the dodecatheism of ancient Greece? Well, maybe some of us are interested in that, but certainly not the trio of theologians in Hume's dialogues. If Cleanthes' argument is sound, then it should be likely that there are whole families of divine beings. Yet, it is absurd that there should be whole families of divine beings. So, Cleanthes' argument cannot be sound, or so goes the objection. This is the theogony objection to Cleanthes' teleological argument for theism in Hume's dialogues. As we move on to the corporeality objection, we are encouraged to think about a certain metaphysical principle. The principle is this, that in order to create and sculpt a material object, it is necessary to be material oneself. I must have material hands to produce a material sculpture, in other words. Only matter can interact with matter, at least in the sense of creating it and exercising force on it. So if, goes the objection, our universe were created in the way that inventions are created, it should follow that the cosmic artisan is made of matter, has a physical body, is physical. And that also strikes our three interlocutors as rather absurd. Standard theological dogma says that God is abstract, God is immaterial, God is a purely spiritual being, God doesn't have a body. And yet, if Cleanthes' teleological argument is sound, it would seem that God would have to have a body. So much the worse for Cleanthes' teleological argument. This is the corporeality objection. And finally, we have the ex nihilo objection. This one's rather simple. We ordinarily think that God is the creator of the universe. In other words, we normally think that God made the matter of which the universe is composed. Cleanthes' argument, however, says that the universe was produced in the way that inventions are produced. But when an invention is produced, the inventor does not make the matter that their invention is made of. The watchmaker does not make the metal of which the springs and the cogs are constituted. So if Cleanthes' argument is sound, God did not make the matter of the universe, but only sculpted it. And that strikes our interlocutors as absurd too. If Cleanthes' argument is sound, God did not create the universe, but rather just shaped it. Yet, goes the objection, God did create the universe. So much the worse for Cleanthes' teleological argument. This is the ex nihilo objection. So there we have it. There's Cleanthes' famous teleological argument for theism, as well as 7 different objections, most of which appear in Book 5 of Hume's dialogues. What do you think? Is this argument really as bad as David Hume seems to think it is? Or can it be salvaged in the face of all of these objections? Let me know in the comments. Thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more philosophy of religion videos coming up.